I'm the Reverend Patricia Hart, Developmental Minister of this First Unitarian Universalist Society of Burlington in Vermont. On behalf of this wonderful congregation, it is my honor to welcome all of you to worship this morning. Whether you are members of this congregation or a friend or anyone from everywhere, it's your presence right now that makes this worship possible. First Unitarian Universalist Society is a community of openness and acceptance and hospitality. And since we can't be demonstrating that togetherness today, at this time, we're finding ways to practice love and compassion everywhere we can in our lives, with clean hands and hopeful and true hearts. Unitarian Universalism is a creedless faith. Recently, one long-term member of this congregation defined that thing as meaning that we all bring all of our experience with us. Our experience of life, of religion, of truth, and we commit to learning new things from the world and one another. This is my study in my house. All the wonderful staff who have made this service possible today are also working from home to stay safe and to keep others healthy too. I'm grateful to all of them and to you. So in just a minute, we're going to light our chalice. I hope that you will find something you can use as a chalice, a candle or a circle or a special stone. Doesn't really matter. Go and get it. You can pause the video if you want and grab your cup of tea or coffee. Find a comfortable place to sit so that you can settle in to worship at a distance, together in our hearts. The call to worship this morning comes from the work of the Kentucky farmer, poet, environmentalist, and prophet Wendell Berry. At start of spring, he writes, I open a trench in the ground. I put into it the winter's accumulation of paper. Pages I do not want to read again, useless words, fragments, errors. And I put into it the contents of the outhouse, light of the sun, growth of the ground, finished with one of their journeys. To the sky, to the wind then, and to the faithful trees I confess my sins, that I have not been happy enough considering my good luck, have listened to too much noise, have been inattentive to wonders, have lusted after praise. And then upon the gathered refuse of mind and body, I close the trench, folding shut again the dark, the deathless earth. Beneath that seal, the old escapes into the new. Let us light our chalice now. And as we do, I hope that you will speak together with me the words we say every week. We kindle this chalice flame to remind ourselves of the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. I invite us all now into a time of story and celebration for all ages together. Thanks so much to Erika Reif for this story.
Good morning, everyone. Right now, I have a lot of questions that I can't answer. I can't know for certain what will happen. All I can do is wait. All I can do is be patient. And that's not always easy. So I like to focus on something I am certain of, something I know is coming because I've seen the signs. And so today, I'm going to read you a story called When Spring Comes by Kevin Henkes, illustrated by Laura Dronzek. When spring comes. Before spring comes, the trees look like black sticks against the sky. But if you wait, spring will bring leaves and blossoms. If you wait, spring will make the leftover mounds of snow smaller and smaller and smaller until suddenly they're gone. Before spring comes, the grass is brown, but if you wait, spring will turn it green and add little flowers. If you wait, an egg will become a bird. A seed will start growing. Spring comes with sun, and it comes with rain, and more rain, and more rain. Do you like mud? Do you like puddles? I hope you like umbrellas. Before spring comes, the garden is just dirt and empty. But if you wait, spring will push green shoots through the dirt to fill up the garden. And spring will call out the pussy willows and new kittens too. Spring can come quickly or slowly. It changes its mind a lot. But when spring is finally here to stay, you will know it. There will be buds and bees and boots and bubbles. There will be worms and wings and wind and wheels. You will feel it. You will smell it. You will hear it. When spring is finally here to stay, you might think you are done waiting, but you are not. Now you have to wait for summer. The end. Thank you so much.
Rest with me now for a moment in a time of meditation. For some of us, that means a particular practice or a prayer or a kind of slowing down to notice that you're here, that you're breathing, that you're alive. First, we will listen to the words, again, of Wendell Berry, and then call to mind your joys and your sorrows, yours and those about and of people that you love. And then we will finish in shared silence. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. So take another breath rest. What are you feeling right now? What have you lost that you may never have again? What are you grieving for yourselves, for others? Where is joy for you right now? What and who are you grateful for? We are distant from one another and so deeply connected. Hold all of this tenderly, knowing that others are holding you in mind and heart and prayer. Remember that you are not alone. Let us be quiet together. Notice breathing. Notice life. Let us sing together the spirit of life. It really can't be said too often. It is the people of the congregation, the members and the friends who make it possible. Your gifts make it possible. They give it life. In some ways, during these difficult weeks when we cannot physically be together, that's even more true than it always is. You are not able to be together and share ideas and a cup of coffee at coffee hour, but your financial gifts to support the congregation are literally what we're building the future on, how we're demonstrating to each other the trust we have in this congregation and its traditions. There are different ways to give in this online offering. I hope that you will take advantage of one of them, whether it's writing a check or texting your gift. The number will be on the screen, or going into your Realm account to make a little extra gift, or maybe make your pledge if you haven't done that yet, going to the website. They're all possible. What matters is that we respond when we can, to the extent we can, to our hope and faith in the future of this congregation. This morning's offering will be shared, as we do every week, this week with Burlington City Arts, whose vision is to fuse a dynamic relationship between the arts and the community, to nurture creativity and imagination and ignite a passion for learning through the arts. This morning's offering will now be very gratefully received. Will you speak together with me the words of dedication for this morning's offering? With gratitude, we dedicate these gifts in the service of our mission to inspire spiritual growth, care for each other and our community, seek truth, and act for justice. This past Wednesday, I had a day possibly much like the days that you are having, some of you at least, in this challenging time. My day was full of Zoom meetings and Zoom conversations, punctuated by emails and texts and a few phone calls. I was sitting at my desk in this study, hour after hour. It was a day of checking in with people in the congregation and talking about needs and urgencies and questions, confusion. What can we do about how long? There were lots of ideas in these conversations, mine and mostly other people's. Ideas, some of them that I would love to say yes to, but I'm not sure if I have enough bandwidth to figure out who I can ask to help to get it done. I was spending the day remotely with staff and lay leaders and one or two board members too. I dropped in the afternoon on a meeting that Christina and Ilana were having to check in on the finances, and at the end of the day I had a meeting with the worship associates, a Zoom meeting of course. It was the first meeting that we'd had since everything changed a month ago. I am so lucky, I'm very aware of this, that I get to work with great people who are generous and good-humored and finding ways to manage and being open and creative and flexible and even not so occasionally brave. There was one constant element in all of these meetings about the congregation and its staff and its programs and its people. One thing that was consistently through in all of those conversations, true. And that is that there is no way to plan anything beyond a week or two into the future. Uncertainty abounds. The truth is that life is probably not really all that much more uncertain today than it is any other day, when any of us could trip and fall and break a hip or have a heart attack or get laid off or lose someone more dear to you than your very life. But it sure feels more uncertain, more risky and terrifying, confusing and distracting. The worship associates and I were talking about how different it is when we meet in worship online. Because we all know how to do worship well when we're in the meeting house together. We know that. Just like all the other particular ways that we know how to live our lives. And in some ways, we're really good at them. Now, though, all those particular ways don't quite fit what's needed. Everything requires more of us than we already know how to give. I hope, like me, you are able to take more walks than you normally do. My dog is very happy about that. He and I, a couple of times a day at least, we go for a walk. We take pretty much the same route, and it's usually not very long because I refuse to look at my phone while I'm walking, and I don't want to be away too long. So as we're taking these walks down the street and around the corner, we are seeing the same little signs of spring every time we go out. They're a little different every time we see them. And all of them are small enough to miss amid the bare gray branches and the leftover gray snow and the gray ground and the gray skies. But they're there. They're growing. I have, I think, daffodils and hyacinths and lilies that are recklessly poking up into the garden that I didn't plant and I don't have time to care for. There's this one tree. It's just down around the corner. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but I've been looking at it for weeks. The buds on this tree, where the leaves will be, are big and fat and sticky. The dog knows that we have to stop and look at that tree, just as we have to stop and check out all the places he normally pees. While I was standing there the other day, I heard a bird song and I thought, wait a minute, I know what kind of bird that is. And I took the time to figure out which tree it might be and looked up at the very top and recognized a cardinal. I do know what a cardinal song sounds like. And there he was, singing away. The trees and the birds and the flowers and the weeds, they are signaling changes right in front of us. There is certainty. It can be hard to see these signs that spring, that new life is showing up, but we can be certain of it. Noticing is our problem. It helps when our rhythm and our need to be productive in all the ways that we're used to expecting of ourselves, when those rhythms get disrupted enough to slow us down. All of this made me think the other day of a spring day, I think 25 years ago, in an exciting, confusing, disruptive, definitely uncertain chapter of my own life. I was living in Maine with my family, but I was also in seminary in Massachusetts, and I was doing field education in the chaplain's office at Tufts University. Sometimes I spent a night or two in a dorm at seminary, but at least once a week I was getting up before dawn in Maine to drive south to Boston, in time for class. That semester, one of my classes was at Harvard, not at the divinity school where I kind of sort of felt like I knew what was happening there, but this one was at the Graduate School of Education. It was a large lecture class. I didn't know anyone. I was deeply intimidated by the professor and the students and quite unsure that I was up to it. I certainly did not want to be late to that class. But driving into Cambridge requires strategy about parking. Here's what I had figured out. On Mount Auburn Street, coming into Cambridge, there is a set of parking places on the right side that are illegal until 10 a.m. If you park there at 9:57, you will get a ticket. If you arrive at 10:03, there won't be any parking spaces left. So you have to drive up at exactly 10. And on this particular morning, I did. I drove down Mount Auburn Street. I parked my car. I waited until the clock ticked over till 10. I gathered my stuff. I got out of the car and I crossed the street and headed down toward Brattle Street, toward the ed school. And as I was walking along in my quick way in order to get to class on time, I said to myself, wait a minute, I think it's March. There's just, where is spring? Good grief. In New England, it's spring, and where are the flowers? I think there should be some flowers by now, at least crocuses. And I was getting all het up about how these people in Cambridge clearly didn't care enough to plant a bulb or two, and I looked down to my left, sidewalk, little teeny yard houses right there. I looked down, and in the ground there was a yard full of crocuses coming up. And I thought to myself, well, these people at least have put some flowers in. And then I looked at the house ahead and the ones down the street and the ones behind me and realized that there were flowers everywhere. There were crocuses everywhere. There were the beginnings of forsythia. I'd been walking by twice a week on this very street, and I had not before then seen them at all. It made me feel foolish and also slightly giddy. I was very happy because of the certainty of spring and able to laugh at my own crazedness. There is a certainty of spring even when we're not paying attention. Uncertainty makes us feel vulnerable. A condition that many of us try really hard to avoid or deny. The poet David White says this about vulnerability. Vulnerability is not a weakness, a passing indisposition, or something we can arrange to do without. Vulnerability is the underlying, ever-present, and abiding undercurrent of our natural state. Trying to be invulnerable is a vain attempt to become something we are not, and most especially, our attempt to close off our understanding of the grief of others. More seriously, in refusing our vulnerability, we refuse the help needed at every turn of our existence. The only choice we have, he writes, is how we inhabit our vulnerability, how we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate. Larger, more courageous, more compassionate. There are things required of us in this time of uncertainty. We need to stay home as much as possible. We need to wear gloves and masks when we go out where people are. We need to wash our hands and stay informed without losing our minds, to take care of our bodies and our souls. To become larger and more courageous and more compassionate, we can get some practice in this time when we are all more vulnerable. One thing I just learned this week that you should know, which is, we all know that social supports make a difference in physical and mental health, both short-term and long-term. When we're on our own or feel alone, our bodies gear up for danger. But what I learned is that our support from social networks, it can even happen at a distance. Expressions of love and empathy strengthen the immune system on the molecular level. It's harder to do when we can't be close to others and we can't hug them or touch them or hang out. But studies show that human connections work remarkably at a distance. The offer of help from a stranger, looking at a picture of someone you love, hearing their voice, sharing a joke can ease pain and measurably reduce physical symptoms of stress. Kindness helps. So how shall we inhabit our vulnerability? How do we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate in the midst of fear and anxiety? Kindness. There's a project to keep us busy. So may it be. So may it blessed be. Let us extinguish our chalice. Would you say the words with me? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with the world until we are together again. The benediction today is a piece called Beatitudes, written in the last week or so by the Reverend Lee Paxula. Blessed are the elderly and the immunosuppressed. Blessed are the fearful, the anxious and irritable. Blessed are the ones who use humor to get by, the ones who could use a vacation anyway, the ones who fear for their life. Blessed are the ones who are sick of it, all the flawed logic, the security theater. Blessed are the ones who cry out, "This is why we need a safety net, a kinder society, a new world." Blessed are the healthcare workers, the administrators catching heat for every decision, the messengers with no power over the message. Blessed are the sad and the lonely. Blessed are the healthy and the sick, the well and the unwell. Blessed are all of us just trying to do our best. Blessed are those who stay kind and clear, who keep our eyes open to each other. Blessed is our neighbor. Blessed are we all. Blessed are we all. Blessed are we all.